Alright, so today's video, LS Swap 101, I'm gonna go over chassis adaptation. Alright, so you want to do an LS swap. What car you putting it in, and what you're gonna have to do to that car to get it ready for an LS swap. Obviously, if it's a Chevy, the things are different. I've never done an LS swap on a Chevy. I'm pretty sure it's a heck of a lot simpler. So I'm gonna approach this as if you're doing it to a New Edge Mustang, because that's what I've done. I've LS swapped a New Edge Mustang, and I've had to do quite a freaking bit to adapt that chassis. So we're gonna start from the headlights and work our way to the tail lights. So you're at the very front of the car. When you're LS swapping a New Edge, your coolant overflow tank won't fit. So you're gonna have to get a radiator with a coolant cap on the radiator, or an inline fill that you put in the middle of the coolant line for you to be able to put coolant in your car. That's one. That's the very furthest away. That's the very closest to the headlights. The first thing you're gonna have to do. The second thing, if you're running power steering, look into electric power steering options, but that's gonna run you a bit, or make your own, or bend some power steering lines, because the Chevy power steering lines will not thread into the Mustang 2 power steering rack. So if you're running power steering, you're gonna have to make some power steering lines for your regular Chevy power steering pump to thread into your Mustang 2 rack. What I did to get around all of that is I just went manual. I went with a manual rack and did the Motion Raceworks steering column. Another thing, if you're most likely running a transmission that has a hydraulic clutch system. It's not cable anymore. So if your clutch system is going from cable to hydraulic during your LS swap, you're gonna have to get a hydraulic clutch conversion, which I got from McLeod. I don't know if it's a racing in their name or not, but I got mine off of McLeod. And I used the T56. And if you're using a T56, McLeod's feed line to the T56 slave cylinder is 4A in. So you're gonna have to get a 4A in adapter to a T56 slave cylinder if you're running a T56. I only have experience using T56s. They've done me great. So I'm gonna speak on what I know. I ran a CD009, but I used a T56 bell housing adapter. So T56 is pretty much my bread and butter. So now we got the clutch. We got your coolant, we have your steering, we have your clutch. Last thing is your fuel. I'm gonna try to explain this. The way I did it was weird. I used a drop-in 320 liter per hour freaking fuel pump that drops into the Mustang fuel tank, and I converted the whole system to AN. I think it's a 6 AN fuel system, the whole thing. So if you're running an external fuel pump, look for something drop in. Hopefully your car has a return line on it. If not, you're gonna have to drill and tap the fuel tank, which is what I had to do. I had to drill and tap the fuel tank. But if your car comes with a return line, you don't have to drill and tap the fuel tank. You just want to convert the return line to AN also, because under your hood you're going to need a fuel pressure regulator, especially if you're running an aftermarket intake manifold. Say you're using the truck motor, the LM7, so the 5.3 or 4.8, and you use the stock truck intake manifold for the Gen 3 motors. It has a fuel pressure regulator in it already, so there's no point in regulating the fuel twice. But I went with the Holly Sniper intake manifold, the sheet metal intake manifold. So I had to go through and dig into my I had to go through and get a fuel pressure regulator. So that's my fuel system. That's how I got it. That's how I got fuel to the car. And then you ask yourself what you're doing with the car. So if it's just staying on the track, you're gonna want to get a harness from Wiring Specialties that plugs. It's a standalone engine harness that still connects to your chassis. So you want to go to Wiring Specialties, and they'll make you a engine harness that still connects to your chassis, so all of your stock gauges and all of that will still work. But if you're racing the car, just go off and get you an LS Swap standalone wiring harness, slap that thing in there, get you a freaking switch panel, and call it a day. Obviously, going that route, later down the line, if you still want your gauge clusters, you're gonna have to upgrade. But if it's strictly for racing, who cares, you know? Well, I think that's about it for chat. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go back to the front. I skipped a piece. If it's not a Chevy, it's a pretty important piece actually. If it's not a Chevy, which this video is tailored to people who are not putting LS swaps in a Chevy, you're gonna either want to do, some cars they make motor mount adapters. In other cars you have to get a K-member. My car, they make motor mount adapters, but I wanted to keep my front end light, so I went and got a K-member anyway. LS Swap K-member it's a pretty freaking penny. I got mine from QA1. It cost me a good chunk of change for somebody who makes $16 an hour. Yeah, but also at the same time, if you go with a K member, you're gonna have to get A-arms, and if you get A-arms, you're not gonna be able to run the stock suspension, so now you're gonna have to get freaking coilovers. So as you can see, the cost adds up. But that's pretty much it for chassis adaptation. Y'all have a good day.